Welcome back to Productivity Mastery. We have a very special episode today, and the reason is the person that I'm interviewing today is, I think, the person that I interviewed the most in the past few years. Sergio, I think the first time we got onto interview was at the Emerge conference in 2020, and since then, this is the fourth interview and I keep on inviting Sergio and trying to pick his brain on a number of different topics. He always has something, some new story, some new example, something new to share. So I'm very happy to welcome Sergiu Negut, co-founder of FintechOS. How are you this morning, Sergio?
I'm a bit worried now that you said that you were talking so often, and this is like the one of the most interviewed persons here. Because I'm lucky. I have a very bad memory, so I don't remember what we talked last time, or the other time, or the other time. And obviously, I'm gonna say the same things at some point. So yeah, let's see. But other than this, it's Monday morning, and like everybody on Monday morning, I'm full of energy and enthusiasm.
I'm happy I got the chance to book you for a Monday. And I actually, the last time we had an interview, the very last one from last year, I asked you a question. I want to start with the same question just so we can unpack and get into the topic of today. And the question is, what's on your mind these days? I mean, you're growing a company that's scaling fast, and you're a founder. You're going to conference. I know there's a lot happening, but just what's on your mind these past few weeks?
Well, it's funny. I think my life got simpler from many points of view since we spoke last time from about this. Because if you have a situation like the investment market has been, or for the last 1 year or 1 year and more, and everybody is a bit clearer about the need for efficiency in growing businesses and all that, then you realize that the best way to manage your business for growth remains the very traditional way of managing business for growth, which is bloody extract value, deliver for the clients, make sure the clients are happy, make sure the clients are paying, make sure that the clients are willing to pay more for more of your product, and that everything is organized in an efficient manner, and you have all the things, all the layers, all the structures, all the processes in order to grow. And if you have that kind of agenda, which is a lot less speculative, then and a lot more, disciplined towards what you need to achieve, I think things are kind of falling in place quite nicely because you make very rational judgments at all moments. So in a way, why the fact that for FintechOS we have decided that, hey, we still have enough money in the bank from the previous raises in order to converge the market, the company to break even by the end of next year, by the end of 2024. So we do that. If at any moment something happens for us to change that view in order to raise the next round, in order to grow the company further and so on, then okay, we will do that. But for now, our approach is, let's bring our company towards break even, or as close to break even as possible, and then we will trigger the next investment round for global expansion.
And
So it's
for the people who
quite
didn't
good,
have a chance
solid
to
work.
for the people who didn't have a chance to listen to our previous three interviews, could you give us the 60-second pitch of what is FintechOS and how far are you guys on the journey?
Ah, okay. FintechOS is this company that is probably the first of a category that we would call fintech enablement. And we call it fintech enablement because this is the kind of company that gives the answer to the famous article of Angela Strange saying at some few years back that every company will be a fintech company. And we believe that, well, perhaps not every company will be a fintech company, a great deal of companies will be. And they need a technology that allows them to fintechify what they are doing. So if you're a bank, then your products need to be digital products. They need to be connected with each other. They need to be embedded in a distribution channel. They need to work with each other. If you're an insurance, pretty much the same thing. If you're a retailer, you may want to consider financing your customers to do stuff. So this is why fintech enablement as a category is there. And we are using advanced high productivity tools in order to enable normal people, business consultants, to build those products and services and launch them on the market. So building products and services, financial products and services, launching them fast on the market, turning our clients into, fintech power hub, fintech innovation powerhouses, making sure that they have the power to innovate and modernize their infrastructure at the same time and come up in the market with strongly differentiated products. This is what FintechOS is. This is what FintechOS does. And there was another nuance to your question.
Yeah, where are you on the journey at the moment?
The
How
journey.
many
That,
people?
that, that's
Where are you?
that's why. Well, it's very interesting because if you're asking me like that, the only answer is, well, we're on the journey, and I don't think this journey. While it has a very clear beginning, or actually two potential clear beginnings. One is the moment when you've got the idea and you start pondering it, and the second is when you start the company. So I think every startup would have like two original moments in time of starting up. But where is the end? To understand where am I on the journey, I have no clue. I hope it's not near in any way. So for us, it's we have offices. We started this thing in Bucharest, but now we have offices in London and New York, and we are moving towards what's happening in those London and New York offices to be a sort of a common headquarter for the firm as the business is growing in North America and in Western Europe as well. And out of that, we are about 300 people in total. We have about 50 clients. Most of them are financial institutions, financial companies, banks and insurance firms, but not all of them, as I said. And yeah, we have a wonderful growth that makes us confident and optimistic about the future.
I wonder, is
There's
every
one thing,
journey?
that let me add one thing because it's uh, there is this thing where this is the broad area of fintech. In the broad area of fintech, people have been like top, and then what is happening, things are going down, and there's not so much hype in fintech anymore. That's what is perceived, but there are many categories of fintechs, and I believe, is not fintech for the sake of fintech. Is not that we are trying to build something that there is no use for. So there's no such thing as a over financed B2C. There is no such thing as technologies that don't have a use out there. If you want, our area is enterprise SaaS. So we produce enterprise SaaS for established firms, and they have always purchased or built their own software. So there is always a need for that. We have not seen a slowdown from the commercial side. We have seen a slowdown from the investment side, but hey, there's no nothing that would make us worry from that point of view. And with that thing, looking forward, then you start pondering, so what's next, and how fast and how big can this grow, and how fast can it grow? Because that's the name of the game in starting startups and in scaling scale-ups.
And at the same time, we have a bunch of people joining us from different parts of the world. I just want to give a shout out to Navid, who's joining us from sunny Dubai. Obviously, you have the Romanian community, Monica, uh, How to Web, and then Melija from Bulgaria is saying, greetings from Bulgaria. Thank you for sharing your experience and knowledge. Talking about expansion and growth, Navid is curious if you have any plans of expansion into Dubai.
Not immediately. And I think that's the shortest answer, because when you think of it, you have the mantra of efficiency suddenly, and you're doing enterprise SaaS. So you know that for every new market that you want to open, there will be some time of paying some people some amounts of money before you can actually get some clients to pay back for that investment. So in terms of efficiency, you go for a higher efficiency as long as you focus on markets where you're already present and where you already have references. So for us in this circumstances, Middle East is not a priority, unfortunately. We'll talk again after we raise the next round.
Excellent. Sergio, we started speaking about the journey, and I don't know how you feel, but at least for me, for the past 5, 10 years, following the startup environment, we tend to hear all these success stories, right? oh, there's a unicorn company. Oh, there's this new tech giant that came from the small country of Slovakia, whatever, right? And somehow we don't really paint the full picture about the difficulties of a journey. And I wonder what's your take on that? Like, is every startup journey meant to be difficult? And maybe if you kind of reflect on your
Yes.
own story with Theo, it's like, did you guys have any sleepless nights and any
No,
major
no, no, no. Nobody,
difficulties?
no, it's well known that none of the entrepreneurs ever have any sleepless nights over their business. It's been forever like that. Any entrepreneur in any country at any given moment in history is such a peaceful and quiet job where you have nothing to worry and things are all set and clear for you. Now, of course, first of all, I think for all successful entrepreneurs that I've known, they all had moments in their, um, typically in their early days, they said, "Fuck, this is not going to work. This is not going to evolve the way we planned for it. So, am I still going to do it? How? What about those people that we hired and we promised them that there would be something and so on." So I think that everyone has had that, and it's a matter of being true to yourself and accepting it that hey, it's not all rosy and clear. But there is something about entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurs are self-motivated. So somehow the large majority of entrepreneurs are when even in shitty times, even when things aren't the way they were supposed to be or they were expected to be. To be fair, um, even in those times, normally the entrepreneurs would find the resources inside and go out there and fight back and accept the things that they have to accept, change the things that they have to change, and move further. And I think that we are no exception. We were lucky in a way, and well, luck is a carefully crafted part of destiny in many situations, but we were lucky to be able to launch this company at a time when we had the experience of having run reasonably large companies in the past. So companies with hundreds of employees that were part of the more traditional way of doing business, where you go from day one for a profit and so on. And we realized the name of the game, so we were very much concentrated in each step of the way on having enough money in the bank in order to run the company properly and in order to grow the company. And I think this effort of having fundraised early enough and knowing how to actually run a company for growth in a more let's say a more conservative or more traditional setting. If you put the two things together, at least you have the luxury of not having major crisis, so you can actually grow the company. And if you need to change things here and there, well, let me um, say something a bit controversial, have the luxury to be able to waste some money. Because in all what we do, sometimes we make mistakes, and there are problems. And it's a good friend of mine actually says it. If a problem can be solved with money, it's not a problem; it's an expense. So that's what it becomes. You run across different problems, and if you have enough money to solve the problems when they come, then it's an expense, it's an affordable expense, and you move on. And you can't really predict the future in all its details, so sometimes you make mistakes in your decision making. You run into things that didn't plan for, and eventually that means it's going to take longer to go to where you wanted to go, and it's going to take you more money to get to where you wanted to go. So that's the beautiful life of an entrepreneur.
So what?
If it's really working well, if it's really working well, that's the beautiful life of an entrepreneur. But um, I don't want to paint a very gloomy picture or so on. But I'm active in the entrepreneurial scene, and I have investments as an angel, and I had investments as an angel in the past, and I'm present there answering questions of people with their earlier stage startups. And I'm Also, together with some friends, creating a vehicle for investments in health tech. It's called Cleverage. It's quite active across the Balkans at this moment. So the thing is, many of the startups are actually don't have that simple, clear continuity from one investment round to the next with a clear path of growth that keeps the growth rate in, as high as possible, and therefore they are investable at any given moment. Many of the startups, even startups that are started by good people with good business experience, who understand the product, who understand the market, who have that founder market fit, and who can create that product market fit that we are talking about. Many of these people end up with moments when they are struggling. And there's this saying that only 10% of the startups succeed and 90% fail. But this is not the full picture. The full picture, in fact, is that while some people succeed and some people fail, a lot of companies are, in fact, kind of struggling. So they aren't dead, they aren't successful. They are, this team of 5 or 10 or 15 people that are struggling from one month to the next to just move a little bit the needle in terms of getting the product to the next level, in terms of getting one extra customer, in terms of getting somewhere. And sometimes I think this is the real trap, and this is the real problem that you have to face. And what do you do with these companies that do not have the what it takes, the whatever it takes in order to jump into a fast growth pace, and they are obviously not that bad at that they would die the next 3 months if they wouldn't get one extra dollar from the founders credit card loan or something like that, you know, or from a savings. And I think this is I think where the struggle with the startups have always been. What do you do in those scenarios? How do you draw the line? How you get there? Luckily, as I said, we were not in that part of the struggle, but that is actually the most difficult part of a struggle of an entrepreneur, finding that while you have that founder market fit, finding that product market fit that gets you to a sort of an exponential growth.
And from what I hear, you learned many lessons in your previous endeavors and jobs, and this experience now you can translate it and be a little bit more grounded when it comes to planning, because that's another feature of founders, especially if you are a first time founder, that you tend to be over optimistic, and you're planning for the best case scenario if everything goes well, and you
It's
don't
not
really
only
have the
first time
buffer.
founders. It's not only first time founders. We tend to, you know, uh, let's say, be overconfident as entrepreneurs generally. It's a known saying. It's gonna cost double, and it's gonna take double the time to get where you thought it would be. And the funniest thing is, you go afterwards, if you do that analysis every now and then, and you realize it's so much truth in it about how long it's gonna take for you to do X, and how much money is gonna cost for you to do X, and then that's it. So yeah, I think it's part of us, and our optimism to move things on, but at the same time there is a build up realism, and being aware that it might cost more and it might take longer, I think is very important. And to the extent that you have the luxury to learn this either with other people's money or with less money in a smaller setting, I think it's so much better.
Do you follow this yourself? And I wonder, when you and Theo are strategizing and planning for a long term, do you keep in mind the fact that maybe we are over positive? How does a planning or strategy session with Theo look like? I'm just curious to hear.
There I think there are very different, ways of building the strategy of a firm, of a startup, or of a high growth startup or scale up, whatever you call it. I think the most important thing remains individuals thinking for themselves in a sleepless night or in a break between two meetings or on a long flight, and trying to think and to draw on a piece of paper on a, your computer, some ideas, some boxes, and I'll do this and I'll do that, and this connects into this and this connects into that, and this is a new picture of how things should be organized. I think this is still probably the most important way of strategizing. Then, of course, you take that kind of blueprint and you start talking, first of all, with your partner, with your co founder, and so on. But then also, of course, you take other smart people, you get consultants, you get McKinsey's of the universe, you get, you know, important clients that have been close to us. You get important people in the company that have have contributed along the way, that understand the client better, that understand the product better, that understand the environment better, and you start, tweaking that into something that works and can have the impact. And sometimes you do that in formal sessions where let's get around table in a meeting, and then you derive this sort of new strategic blueprint, and then you try to see how, and if we were to cascade what's on this chart into activities to get there, and the steps that we need to take, and the resources and capabilities that we need to acquire or build, what would be the relevant OKRs for a current cycle that would, contribute to taking us there. So coming back to the thing is, the funniest and the most, let's say, the most uh, uh, living way of strategizing is, let's have a beer and talk about the business and where we're heading and what's going to happen and what are the different scenarios and so on. Still, the most productive probably is, sitting down and trying to draw things and seeking feedback from the others around that blueprint, and every now and then getting a committee to run the whole thing and to cascade it down into how to implement that strategy. I think this is the the professional, the more professional way of doing things that I would preach. But I have to admit that it happens in the minority of times, not in the majority of times.
And I feel like there's also some magic into having a combination of both approaches. Like, because sometimes when you had the beer, you start talking about this idea that's not crystal clear, but then 2 days after you sit with the whiteboard, and based on this idea in this conversation, now you
Yeah.
have something that you can really develop. So there's no like universal, this is how you should plan, and it should be specifically at this period and frequent, and um but there's some
No,
guidelines, right?
yeah, I believe that there are some things that are absolutely clear. Obviously, you put up something that looks like a strategy. A strategy has to fundamentally say how you're going to be unique and why that uniqueness is going to make money for you, and why that uniqueness implicitly is going to be valuable for the clients. So this is absolutely clear. And the other part that is absolutely clear, that is you have to take steps in order to implement it. Take steps in order to implement it. It means creating the policies, creating the structures, creating the flows, the activities in the company in order to build towards that strategy. Yeah. And if you want to do it in a practical way, obviously it has to do something with objectives. Therefore, at least this decade, the most common way in companies to set objectives is OKR. There go. Therefore, you go. So these are the very uh, clear things, the must-haves. Now, how you actually do it, and the actual process of building that, of creating the vision for the thing, how you involve advisors and clients and all that, this is so different from and how much of it is ad hoc because it so happened that you had some time to think about it, and how much is planned because we have set this retreat where we are getting together and planning for something. That's something that I've seen many things in many companies, and uh, some work better, some don't, and I don't have a very clear correlation as to what works and what doesn't when you're talking about this kind of entrepreneurial company that needs to jump to the next level. I have some ideas about how you do that in a mature company to make sure that it works, but it's slightly different.
And that leads me to the question that was asked in the live comments by Monica. She's curious about how big is your team now and how was the journey of growing from 10 to the current number of people?
Wonderful question. We're about 300 right now, and that's spread in multiple locations. And if you look at the number of people as the building blocks, if you want, of your team, it's uh, hmm, it's always a race in a way. And when you're a small company, you don't necessarily have access to the same level and breadth of talent as you have when you grow larger. So, because every great professional in this universe would, when they get approached by a startup that hasn't necessarily achieved much, they would say, look, but how would this look on my CV? Would this be something that is interesting? Will this help in my career? Maybe it's not safe enough. Maybe they're going to have difficulties. So if I get a job from Microsoft, Google, Facebook, whatever, I'm better off. So yeah, thank you very much. I'm flattered, but no. So and this is what happens in the labor market. When you grow bigger, when you're 100, 200 people, and you have the luxury, like we have, to be a visible company, at least in our geography of origin, and when even in the other geographies, you get to find out, hey, this is funded, this analyst that has said that this Forrester report, this da da da, and it's something like an established firm. So, and wow, this is a very interesting technology, and it's going to grow da da da. So that's a different stage, and you have access to different kind of talent. Okay. Now there are a few things along the way. First of all, you realize you're in a race, so you recruit people and you try to onboard people and to try to get people to work, and coordinating. It's actually two alternative traps. Either you don't hire enough people, and then it's everybody's like overworked and everybody's like overstretched, and you don't really necessarily try to manage to achieve everything that you planned for because you don't have enough people. You know you didn't get the right people that you wanted to hire, and therefore you didn't hire, or so on. Or you find the people, you get the number of people, you don't necessarily get the right level of people that you wanted to hire, but you to hire because there's work to be done and you have to do it. Okay. And then in with this team is a lot of chaos because hey, you have more than half of the people that you have hired have been in the company for 6 months or so, and not more. And that means, hey, it's going to be complicated because nobody like really knows what needs to be done. Everybody, there's a lot of exploration and there are a lot of energy lost in trying to create some processes at the same time while using those processes into building and transferring knowledge from people that have been longer in the company, and then challenging that knowledge into building the new level of knowledge that you need to build in the company. So it's kind of it's a very I don't know, it's like a large amount of water over a rocky gorge, through a rocky gorge or something like that. It's not a cascade. It's not as clean and clear as a cascade. Is not a stream of water that you can uh, navigate on a boat with. Not navigate with a boat on. So I think that the thing is you end up with this thing that you don't really you have to move forward, and you move forward at all cost and with all speed, and that you can, and you figure out what needs to be fixed in the process. There are some challenging moments in the journey, if you want. And I think this is valid for every organization, but more so for organizations that are growing fast. Number one, it's the size of the team. When you reach something like 100 people, then you have to formalize a lot of systems, processes, to formalize the culture, to make sure, because you don't have anymore that kind of family environment where everybody knows you have kids, you don't have kids, you do this, you do that, and so on. In a small tribe, less than 100 people, this is something that has always been possible. Above, and the limit is 150 in literature. So above 150, you absolutely need to have middle management. You have to have structures. You have to have rituals. You have to have the things that create a culture. And that is one thing. One thing that requires explicit effort and explicit plan. Second thing is, as you grow the company, you would have created some middle management. You would have appointed some middle management that have, a large enough remit. Okay. And then what happens is the company grows bigger, and you need a different level of expertise for different markets with different level of complexity. So you hire people that are far more senior than those. And in a way, although, the departments grow, and these people that are middle managers that you have hired continue to manage teams and so on, well, they are kind of one level away from the leader of the firm, because you need to hire a new level of management. And some of them would feel demoted because, hey, they are not anymore head of the entire product, but perhaps just a unit in the product or something like that. So managing this one level of management that is kind of coming on top of an existing level of management, this is always struggling from the personal, personal aspirations and personal way of people running their lives and their careers. But hey, I used to be head of something, and now I'm head of something smaller conceptually. Although, then the business is larger, so the team is larger. And finally, the errors and omissions in charting the course and the attempts that don't succeed. Uh, you make you make mistakes. When you make mistakes, you don't know they are mistakes. You make decisions, and some of those decisions are right, some of those decisions are wrong. Only in the aftermath do you become, smart decisions or mistakes. And this means that you end up building some teams for something that doesn't take off, whether it's a geography, whether it's a vertical in the product, whether it's something that, and then you come across the realization that this is not going to work, or this is not going to work as planned. So you need to decommission, a team or someone from a position, and it's not their fault, but you still need to basically tell them, look, sorry, we've been through this journey together, but as of now, unfortunately, our ways split, because hey, you have this competence, and we are now realizing that this is something else that we need to do. And this is tough. This is tough because you realize, and when people are not performing, it's so much easier, because you don't perform, so thank you very much, that's it. Well, you do something else, I do something else. Okay. But when they do perform, they are really, really good at what they are doing, but there is a misfit between how the company is turning in what the company needs to do, and what your competence is, and qualifications are. That's a tough situation, and it happens because you have to move fast, and you have to retain what's probably the most important superpower of entrepreneurship, which is the superpower to change your mind. Multinationals and large companies don't have that luxury of changing their minds. We do. So we have to be able to use it in order to move the course of the business as we learn more and more, and as the market changes, and perhaps at times and we learn about that, to be able to use that more and more and to change the course. And that unfortunately hurts some people.
Monica, I hope you enjoyed the answer of this question. I definitely did. And I actually have a follow up question here. You talk about, unfortunately, there are some tough decisions that need to be made, and it's the role of the leader to make them. Every time I talk to you, Sergio, you give me this very calming energy and feeling. Of course, it's one thing how you appear, another thing what's happening inside, right? But I wonder, how do you mentally prepare yourself to make the tough choices, or when you have to have a tough conversation, or I don't know, there is some external crisis that's affecting the business and you need to announce the bad news. How do you mentally prepare for these situations?
It's a struggle, to be frank, and because it's a struggle, the faster you do it, the better it is, because then you're so, so don't when you know that you're going to make something that is a change, do it as fast as possible. And I think that's one important clue, because otherwise you're going to be tormenting there forever about, is this good, is this bad, what's gonna entail. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I'm a chronicle optimist. So I really believe in the good of people. I really believe in businesses growing, and I believe in opportunities. And frankly, even in my career, every time I got a kick in the butt, it meant a leap forward. So kick in the butt equals leap forward. So I'm not that much worried that, when we talk to people, and sometimes what we get or what we give is a kick in the butt. I think you have to carry the conversation to what's next, because that's the most important thing. What's next? The what's next thing. We are still, and we are luckily living in a universe, in a society of abundance. Okay, where there is plenty of job opportunities for good people, where there is plenty of initiatives that people can come up with, where people have the chance, if they want to realize something, or to at least attempt to start something, to start the startups that they thought of starting. And the safety net is really high, because as long as you have worked with people for a while and people know that you're good at something, okay, and as long as you have developed some skills and you have a profession or something like that, hey, even if you basically lose everything, lose shirt over an attempt to start a startup, or you lose a job that you cared about or something like that, there will always be, and it's not going to take a lifetime, it's going to take a very short amount of time for you to get a new team, a new setting, a new way of doing things that would actually pay the bills. So for us, is if you want to find the best fitting, um, hmm, um, the best fitting um, things in your life and in other people's lives, the best fitting aspirations, the best fitting skills, and the best fitting actions that allow you to be part of the next team with the next purpose and with the next set of goals, if you want. And I'm not, it's not that I'm trying this to do it with all love and not cynicism, because I truly believe that, hey, we have, all of us, we probably all of us have chances to be better off somewhere else, doing something else, if we start exploring that route. Okay, and in most of the cases, we don't explore that route because, we're in a good place and some things are going nice and so on. But when you have the chance to exploit that route, to exploit the what else can you do, you realize it's a whole universe, and it's so exciting. Yeah. So sometimes you get to follow the current path. Sometimes, that path closes and you need to find the next path. But that should be e- an area of excitement and an area of joy, and it might actually fit better with your personality and with your skills.
I love the part about optimism. And I remember the first time we met, I asked you afterwards, "Hey, can I interview you for our book?" At the time, we were writing a book about startups and culture called "Perform: The Unsexy Truth About Startup Success." Currently, we're writing our second book called "Perform in Times of Crisis." And of course, I would love to hear some thoughts from you as well, and probably we'll follow up again on email to say, "Hey, can you also send me this?" But my question with that regard is, what would be the top three traits of a weak leader in times of crisis?
Weak leader at a time of crisis. Okay, let's get one step back. What's different in a crisis from a non-crisis? Is the level of volatility and um, the how dynamic opportunities are appearing and mostly disappearing. So that kind of if I were to think of something, there has been a few years back there were discussions about the VUCA world, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity of a certain environment. And in a VUCA world, everybody agrees that, hey, you can't apply pre-existing rules. You have to shift from doing efficiently what you know how to do into exploring new ways of you know doing the same thing or doing something else to exploit opportunities in a rapidly changing world. This is getting even more complex because it's um, resources that you have access to in a crisis are shrunk. So while you need to put more effort into growing the company through unknown means, therefore into experimentation, well, you need to put more resources into experimentation, you have access to less resources overall. That's a crisis. Now, the beauty of it is high growth companies and startups are in a perpetual state of crisis because from the moment they started the business, there is a great level of uncertainty about how am I going to make the next step, what's the next market, what's the next move, what's the next feature on the product, how is that, and that there's a massive learning that is happening very fast. So in a way, starting a startup is putting yourself in a state of crisis that you have to manage through, to manage with, and so on. So in a way, and I'm, of course, I'm not philosophizing or that, okay, in a way, is the natural state. Yeah. It's a crisis. Thank you very much. What are you? You're a startup. Thank you very much. So you do whatever you were doing in the past in the same way. Just be careful about some things. Ta-da. And here are probably the three things. Most important thing: watch the money. Watch the money. And I'm not necessarily thinking now, the answering to your question, weak leader or something like this. I'm trying to distinguish between what a good management and less than good management would be in a certain situation. But watch the money. You have probably a bit tougher time raising more money if you need more money, so you have to be very careful about how much money you have, what's the runway that you're looking for. Postpone the runway as much as you can. Think of creating the longest runway that you can think of converging to break even. Think of, if you didn't raise the next dollar, how would the company look like? So that's and of course, by opposition,
I just want to stop
the
you here. I just want to stop you here
yeah.
because this is really important. Can you give some examples on that, like specifically? And I don't know, we can even take a pandemic happening or a global recession or like just a hypothetical example. What would be a way to be creative in terms of extending the runway?
um there's only one thing to manage for the runway is increase the revenues, decrease the expenses. And I think this is the answer to crisis for small and large companies since forever. So you start watching what you're spending money on and cut radically the things that are luxury or are not something that are triggering revenues in the current planning period. Okay, and that's definitely the way to do it. And then you go into your current revenue streams, which are sometimes the result of a choice. I'm saying, I'm making money out of this because this is strategically important, and you start looking for additional revenue sources. Now, that may be less strategic, but hey, it's a crisis, so every dollar is a dollar, you know. So it's not rocket science. It's how you put things in motion, and you make sure that you reduce the expenses, you increase the revenues in order for the company to be as close to profitability, as close to break even as fast as possible, ideally with the amount of money that you have already. Because even if that is technically impossible, so you have a company that will not, with the amount of money that has in the bank, will not be able to converge to break even, irrespective of what you do. Hey, you have to get closer to that for the potential investors to have the appeal and to say, hey, this is a good company. You look, they're on the path. They just need the extra dollars. Maybe it's a good opportunity to go there. So number one, I said, watch the money. Watch the money. And watch the money means that don't sit and watch. Do something about it. Yeah. That's one thing. And actually, this is the number two thing is don't sit and watch. Do something and do something as early as possible. Don't overanalyze. Don't wait because perhaps whatever triggered the crisis may go, and don't wait because you don't have enough data. You know, probably you have enough data to realize that you need to do something, not enough data to realize everything in small steps of what you need to do. But the adjustments in the business structure, these are things that you need to do earlier rather than later, because every day that you continue to throw money out the window at something in a crisis is going to, hit you back at some point really hard. And number three, and it's kind of difficult to do number one, two, and three together, is keep the people united, keep the people together. And you have two categories of stakeholders, two categories of people that you really, really, really care about. It's your team and it's your clients. Make sure that you give them transparency and they understand what they're going through and they understand what you are going through in a way that, increases the likeliness of you have bonding with them, as opposed to, increases the chances of them separating mentally from you. And of course, here the most important focus is on your own team, because sometimes, as I said earlier, it may be the time for you to say goodbye to some very good people, and you absolutely have to do it. And you have to keep the rest of the team united, and you have to uh, be able to talk to your customers about, what is out there in terms of market, and what does this mean for the relationship between you, and to build on new potential revenue streams and stuff like that. So it's money, it's, action, it's people.
Beautiful. And talking about, I come from the movie industry. That's my background. I'm not sure I share with you. And
Sure.
when we, I was a producer, right? So when you go to on set on a production, a lot of people don't understand. When you go on a production, it's a crisis management for a few days. Like you're constantly jumping from one crisis to another. I don't know, the camera stops working, the smoke machine is not there, somebody gets sick and it's a major actor. Now you have to, like, it's just like a mini series of crises that you need to solve. So I'm kind of used to jumping around, assessing the situation, and adjusting the plan really fast. I wonder if you have any example like that you want to share, like of a crisis or emergency that happened on your entrepreneurial journey, and just if you can lead us through the example, what did you do right and what would you do differently if you can go back?
That's a very deep question, and I'm afraid I don't have like the perfect example, but I do have many uh, many other many examples, and that I've gone through, where um, you don't always find best perfect balance between the and, the people together. And I think this is coming back to the three anchors that I gave as an answer to your previous question. And I had times when I was, let's say, perhaps not moving fast enough in making the decisions, and as a result, the finances have deteriorated to a point. In fact, in my past, but that's also sometimes an opportunity, because in my past, for instance, there is one company that I have invested in at some point, and I invested precisely because they were in a difficulty. They were in a crisis situation. They did not realize they were in a crisis. They were, too fond of, we have this amazing team. We have to hold the company together, the team together, irrespective of happens. We will find new sources of revenue. And they found new sources of revenue, but much later, not in 2 months, something that would, make the company whole. And the company started to have financial difficulties, like serious enough financial difficulties. And I was at the time, the company, the person that came as a small investor and helping them restructure those finances over the next 6 months or so with a limited amount of money, but that limited amount of money was necessary in the economy of the firm. And well, that could have been avoided had they just realized, hey, I lost a major part of my revenue. I absolutely need to cut away a major part of my expenses, even that means, I don't know, you know, saying goodbye to lots of good people. Okay, and I think that's one example of me, not necessarily me making the mistake, but jumping in order to solve a situation like that. The second is, and I'm gonna be honest, we had, when we started to structure things with a new paradigm of growing towards break even, efficiency growth, we had to adjust and say goodbye to certain teams that were doing stuff that we thought, hey, this is no longer something that we can invest in because the efficiency of investment isn't there. And I know it went the way it went, and it's been mostly reasonable, mostly good, but I don't know for sure if we did, early enough what we needed to do, and we were kind enough to the people that we said goodbye to, you know because there is always this thing. And then the most important thing, if we were clear enough to the people that were not directly affected, in order for them to get the reality of what we have gone through. Because when bad things are happening, people tend to be suspicious. And the way our mind works, our mind fills the void with monsters. So when you don't have something that gets talked about, you imagine the worst. Okay? Something that doesn't get mentioned is usually interpreted, it wasn't mentioned, not because that guy is stupid and has forgotten to talk about it, but because there is something really, 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 really deep and troubling and problematic about it. You know? And this kind of thing, there is never enough communication, but also you can't, like over exhaust everything in communication. So you communicate what you think you need to communicate, and it hits you like a week later that there is this tiny thing in your mind that you didn't mention, and yet it blew into something, into some dragon that is, throwing flames over their mouth and burning the ground. So what I'm trying to get to here is that I don't think there is a one best way of keeping the company together after you have to do a small restructuring or a larger restructuring, and it's been in the IT industry, in the tech industry, everywhere, and in all the companies. And you read about the nice letter that I don't know which CEO has written to people, da da da, and it's a nice letter, but I'm pretty sure some of the people in that company got it really bad. And some others, they do, let's make a town hall with the people that are staying, and let's make a conference with the people that are going, and then it's kind of so there is no one single best way of doing things. There is one single approach to it, which is be kind and be thoughtful. And everybody's a human, therefore you can't always be kind enough and thoughtful enough, so you make mistakes. You don't necessarily manage to provide that level of confidence, the right level of confidence, to the people that are staying. But if you did things reasonably right, with a good and open heart, after a while things settle. That's my thing. After a while, things settle.
So what I'm hearing is part of your job as a leader is to accept that there will be tough times and you will make mistakes and it might get messy. Somebody might get offended, hurt, something might happen, but it's a natural part of a journey of building something of meaning.
Yeah. That that is, sometimes, because when you have to make the changes and you have to make them fast, there's never 100% best way of doing things. So sometimes you realize, as you have to move faster rather than wait and ponder for extra time, that you have made a mistake and you have not made the best or the smartest choice. And hey, even worse, some people in the organization would have known how to do it better.
And that's really important, what you're saying here. And the thing is, like, when you made this mistake or whatever mistake you made, I think that the challenge is if we keep coming back to, oh, how come can I done this? I'm so stupid. Like, spending so much energy on something that's irreversible as opposed to what a great lesson. Okay,
Mm,
where's the solution? Like kind of
yeah, no,
decreasing the
totally.
time that we spend in unproductive space. And here's
Yeah.
my question to you. I have two more questions. Here's the
No, we
question to
can't.
you.
I
It's
mean,
like,
that's a matter of you keeping peace of mind. You can't fix the past. You can't fix the past. You can only
how do
fix the
you
future.
do that, Sergio? How do you, I mean, it's easy to say, but it's, we're human beings. How do you personally kind of let it go and move on fast enough?
For me, it's easy. I've been blessed with a very bad memory, so I forget. So I trained myself to make sure that when I think that to understand the things I will forget the details of things. They will pass by and they will be forgotten. But I have this thing that is my reactions as a business person, and how I trained my muscles, if you want. And obviously, if I made a mistake in the past, it would have trained my muscles, hopefully, in me making a slightly better decision next time when I'm in a similar situation, although I may not remember it. But my training would have already, this is burning, don't touch it. And I don't need to overthink about it. But if it's burning, don't touch it, this kind of thing. But yeah, I think, yeah. But also, I think to even people that are less blessed and they have an excellent memory. So even they have a chance, because the only thing is, hey, let's focus on the future. The future is so exciting. The past is so boring. It happened already.
And this unshakable optimism is another trait of great leaders, especially in difficult times, that they keep the focus on the team. Where's the vision, what's happening after the crisis, and keep reminding everybody, all right guys, it's difficult times, but hey, if we come together, this is what can happen. All right, I don't promise anything, but hey, let's go, and keep reminding people, hey, there's better things coming out there. There might be opportunities that we never seen before, thanks to this
Yeah.
challenge that we're going
So,
through.
and let me put some other, add one extra small thing. Um, I think the most important thing that we get, and I think this is philosophical, when you start a company and when you start building it and so on, the most important thing that you get as a person is not money and is not glory. So if you don't focus on how much money you're going to make and how glorious this is going to be on you, but you focus on learning, what can I learn out of it? Then I think you're a lot more at peace, and you use your if you want, your semi-intellectual entrepreneurial curiosity. I'm saying semi-intellectual because it can't be, just curiosity. It's curiosity with action. So you learn stuff, you do stuff, you learn stuff, you do stuff. So it's you use this entrepreneurial curiosity in order to learn, and that learning experience, whether at the end of the day you got the money and the glory or whatever you were willing to whatever else you were willing to get out of it. Okay, it's probably not that relevant. You have to, if you focus on the learning, then you would have learned already a lot. You would have gained already a lot in your journey, even when, this doesn't necessarily lead to a major success or something. And that learning is something that stays with you because, hey, building a product and launching a product, this is a major skill, even if perhaps in this particular instance it was less than the success that you wanted it to be. Building a team and working with a team is a learning. Raising some funds, talking to some investors, knowing who they are, all those things are people that you have met in the process, that you know how good they are at what they are good, and they know how good you are at the things that you're good. This is learning. This stays with you, and it's not going to change if this time or that time. This is not going to be the money making or pedestal building thing that you may have thought it would be.
Again, coming from the movie sector, I love the fact that you're talking about perspective, and you put on the different type of lens and you see the world differently with the same kind of facts. Like, I come from the world of movies, and I was fascinated how we put so much effort into creating and shaping stories where we're screenwriting a story, and there's this main character, and then they go through a struggle, and then they learn something, and then they go even lower down, but then they go up, and then they go down, and they go up, and at some point eventually they either achieve the goal they wanted to achieve, or it's not as relevant anymore, or they have this major learning. And we're fascinated by watching the movie, the stories, but we don't really see ourselves the same way, right? And every time I'm kind of in a difficult moment, I made a major mistake, I try to remind myself, that's amazing, man. You're in the lower part of your story, right? Now it's just upwards, right? Like this. What if I see the 5 or 10 or 15 years instead of I look at today? And it kind of grounds me and helps me to get back into a more productive state. Doesn't mean I'm going to resolve all the solutions tomorrow, like all the problems tomorrow, but I have a way better chance to spend my energy more productively. And that's
If I may add one difference between the movie settings and the what we are doing here, um, hmm, there's no villain. In most of the cases, there is no villain in the real world. So you should not overspend time trying to look for a villain and vilify something or somebody in the in your normal way of business. Although that is creating great adversarial energy that can be summoned in order to do great things with. But hey, it's very likely that there is no villain around, and with that fact, acknowledgement of that fact, perhaps it's even easier to build a better world somehow.
amen. And final question we have
Amen.
from final question we have from Melika. Thanks everybody for joining us live and for engaging. I just want to ask this question. Melika is being very curious, and she's asking, how do you choose the people in your teams? Is trust one of the cores for successful relationship with your committee?
Oof. Trust is of the essence. Trust is of the essence. We are um, blessed with a less than optimum ability to trust people in this part of the world. If you look at the interpersonal trust, it goes to its highest levels in Nordic countries. It goes to its lowest level in the part of the world where we come from. That is fundamentally one area of growth for us, to understand that we need to trust people more, because that builds our ability to work with others before we have learned that we can work with others and we can rely upon them. So if at any given moment in your career, one person perhaps has cheated you on something or has taken advantage of you because you trusted them, that is definitely not the case for you to distrust or to be that prudent in trusting the rest of 99 or the rest of nine people that even if you didn't know them, trusting them wouldn't have hurt you back. And this is important, that there is a massive difference between the granting of trust that we give others when we come from this part of the world, and there may be historical reasons attached to it, as if you are coming from the Nordics. So this is one thing that we have to fix in ourselves. Trust is a given, and trust can be withdrawn if you fail me, but only to you and not to everybody else whom I would continue to trust every time. And I think this is why our position, when we want to build something big, something where people need to collaborate, where people absolutely need to trust each other, you have to keep that element of trust, and you have to give trust rather than expect trust. Okay, and I think this is one important thing. Choosing people is, hey, you you choose from the people that have chosen you to a big extent. So you have to choose from the people that want the job that you opened. It's not the abstract. Even when you do headhunting, you get turned down many times because you know this person doesn't necessarily want to change where they are right now, and so on. So this choosing of people is never easy. Personally, I'm looking at three things, or actually two categories of things. Let me put it like that. It's aptitude and it's attitude. So on the aptitude, we can't afford to hire people that don't have the aptitude. It's too slow. We can't really teach the people that we hire, like many of the companies that are growing slower or have less urgent things to do can afford taking. Of course, there are people where we train them and we get them to the level what they, of that we need them to provide. But that doesn't, they have also to have the aptitude of being super fast learners and to have the skills and the experiences that in an adjacent part of knowledge, such that with that aptitude of learning they get up to speed fast enough and a very functional thing of the work that they need to do. As entrepreneurs, we hire people, we always have to hire people that are smarter than us in their area of expertise, in their area of understanding. And how much smarter, how much more do they know? We're not even able to judge sometimes, you know, because we can only have visibility about that much over our own knowledge and our own experience, and everything above that is, you know, it may still be different levels, but we don't have visibility of where it is. Higher the aptitude, that sometimes that aptitude needs to build on top of something that we currently have or understand. On the attitude thing, well, this is a fast-paced environment where we need to move fast. Sometimes we make mistakes and we have to correct them. We have to keep together and we have to trust each other. And in order to do that, we need two kind of attitude things that are important for me. One is a certain level of bravery. Be brave, we call it, you know. So we need people who have the courage and the ambition to build something important. We can't choose people that are there for a cozy job 9 to 5. If you're up for a cozy job 9 to 5, well, there are government jobs somewhere, hopefully, that you can take, you know. But is for us, this is not something that is enough for us. Going to do things as they were always done is not going to bring the next revolutionary product, is not going to create history, is not going to create that global firm that we want to build. So be brave. and have the courage to stand up for your opinions and have the courage to, make decisions, and the ambition. And this is very relevant for ambitious people. You have to at the same time be kind, you know. So not all the people are equally ambitious. Not all the people, not your ambition may actually be potentially conflicting with someone else's ambition at some moment. Be kind in treating others. Understand, put yourself in their shoes, and work with other people as you would want them to work with you, is the golden rule if you want. So if you want, well, it's have the aptitude, be brave, be kind. These are the way if that we are, struggling or doing our best to select our people with. Are we 100% successful? No, we are not. But, they say excellence is not the result. Excellence is this, the strive to get there.
Beautiful. What a great way to wrap this up. And by the way, she's very happy with your answer, Sergio, and so am I. And I just want to give you the space here to share what's on your mind these days. Where could people find you and FintechOS, and who are those people who will, or companies who will benefit most working with you guys?
Oh, thank you very much. So if you see if you're working in a company that has the need to launch financial products or is currently looking at, hey, we are a retailer and we need to finance our buyers to buy things. We are a bank and we need to distribute financial products with different channels, different online channels, and we want to enhance that. We are a company and are thinking of some embedded finance that would be part of a value chain. Then this is something where FintechOS has a lot of knowledge about it. At the same time, I am here basically, among other things, on a mission to create the a better business environment and a better startup environment for people to grow and build whatever they dream of. And in that process of building a better world that we dream of, really build a better world. So sometimes I have the possibility, I have the knowledge, I can give advice, and sometimes I can put a bit of money here and there in companies. So if it so happens that we manage to find a fit, you know where to find me. And I'm old enough that my email address is sergiu@gmail.com, and that is a lifelong email address, as you would suppose. So hey, every now and then I respond to people asking for different things. And I'm always very happy to see some business started by one of you that has the potential to grow a lot bigger than the business that I started myself. And happy to talk about that.
Congratulations for owning this Gmail, first of all, Tertio. And secondly, thank you so much for being with us and for sharing the fourth time. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot more meetings in the years to come. Thank you for being a giver, Sergio, for always sharing your lessons with the no BS, no filter hashtag, uh, way of looking at the things, and just being honest with not only what you're good at, but also some of the mistakes, the shortcomings. Because I think we need to have more conversations that are real, and you're a great example and a great inspiration for me. So thank you so much, Sergio,
Thank you,
for
Stan.
another
It's amazing
great
what you're
episode.
doing. And it's like every time a conversation with you is so fulfilling, because it kind of puts a mirror, and there are things that I learned from the conversations with you, and I'm really happy to be here and to contribute. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Give us a 5-star or whatever rating you feel like we deserve. And keep listening to Productivity Mastery. Keep building, no matter the circumstances externally. So thank you so much and see you at the next episode.
Thank you.